was meek and mild as a kid. I was not, wasn't the kid who liked to talk a lot. I was a back of the classroom kid, highly intelligent, back of the classroom. So if you're an educator, you're a parent, grandparent, whomever, and your loved one is a back of the classroom kid, it doesn't mean that they don't know what's going on. They just want to be in the back of the classroom. I digress. I didn't speak a lot. You know how when they ask questions, I was not the first person to raise my hand, although I knew the answer. That was not, it wasn't my place. It wasn't what I wanted to do. I didn't want to be seen. Hence, back in the classroom, I didn't even really speak up for myself. I shouldn't even say really. We did not speak up for ourselves. We didn't do it. Yes, me, myself, and I, we didn't do it. But when I found my voice, when I finally found it, I couldn't stop talking. That's how we got here today. Let's talk. Hello and welcome to Ladies Listen Up. I am your host, Gwendolyn G.R. Houston Jack. And depending on if you follow me on any other social media platform, you may already know this, but I'm going to share it because it's a darn good story. Gwendolyn, because I talk about myself in the third person, is what all the greats do. I have a speech impediment. Yeah, speech impediment. When I was a kid, stuttered. And not horribly, but bad enough that I didn't want to talk. Like, ever. I shouldn't even say like. I didn't want to talk at all. Because I was so afraid of being picked on and having someone look at me like, look at this poor kid who can't get her words out fast enough, which is kind of what it was. Kinda? It is? We'll find out. So I was terrified to speak, and I can't even tell, like, the first time it really dawned on me. So my mother kept our report cards, and this is the part about education that I am not a fan of, which I will leave that for another conversation. But we like to put kids in boxes. And we like to do it at an early age when they are just still becoming a child, figuring out what all this is about. So on my report card for kindergarten, because I didn't talk a lot and I kind of needed to get myself together, they had me flagged, termed as possibly special needs, may fall behind, may not be able to keep up. And by the time I got to second grade, they were realizing that I was considered gifted. I'm going to say it now. I have a thing about titles and boxes and kids at a young age. We'll come back to that. But yes. So we had a lot going on. I had a lot I wanted to say. Now, of course, at home, I'm talking a little bit, but like my siblings would mock me. My cousins definitely mocked me. They called me Porky Pig as a nickname. Not nice. You know, it can leave an impact on a kid, right? Like, you know that stuff. Yeah. So we didn't talk very much. I didn't want to talk at all. I didn't want to do much of anything. I love to play. And I do recall fourth grade? No, third grade. I think it was third grade. I wanted to be in the school play, like in our classroom play. And I was a cardinal. It had to get out on stage, and there's nothing more terrifying for a kid who can hardly get her words out to be on stage in front of all the parents in the school having to recite your lines. I remember being on that stage and I just stared up at the ceiling. I was like, I'm not gonna look at anybody. I'm gonna be right here looking at the lights, and I'm gonna get my words out. I'm gonna get off this stage. We didn't do any more plays. It's probably why I didn't get into any kind of real activities until after high school. In college, I got stuff. Like my last year of high school, I did get into writing. I did get into writing and debate. Yeah. But we didn't do acting. Of course, now, if I could go back, and it's not too late, I could so see myself on stage. I could so see it. But let me get back on track. Let me talk about where we are. So it's nothing harder than to be a kid with a speech impediment. And I don't care which one it is. It's just hard because all the other kids are going to laugh at you. And kids are cruel, cruel creatures. Cruel, ungodly creatures. I believe it's gotten worse since I got out of school. But it was bad then. So I kept my mouth quiet. Probably why I didn't date until I was like a senior in high school. Because I just wouldn't say anything. I'd be like, I get like a word here, a word there, but I would not. I was not really big on saying stuff. Now, third grade, Mrs. Graff. Mrs. Graff is the teacher who helped me calm my nerves and pace myself. I remember her taking me because the other thing that freaks out kids is having to read aloud. Now, if you're not a reader, it's terrifying, okay? Traumatizing. If you are a reader, but you can't get your words out, it is like stick and fork in me because I am like a possum. I'm rolling over. So I would count the number of kids in front of me, and I would find the paragraph that I was supposed to read, and I would practice it so I could have my words ready, and so I wouldn't stutter as I'm reading the paragraph. And there was nothing worse than giving a kid you know what? Let's go past Billy and let's go ahead and go to Ann. It's like, no. Yeah. Hated it, man. I hated it with passion. Loved reading. Spent my summers in the library as a library assistant. Nerds. But I love it. But high school has shifted a little bit because Mrs. Graff in third grade took me aside and said, I need you to breathe. Take your time and breathe. And then let your words come out. And I was like, I get my words out. But I started breathing and taking my time with words. And I slowly became comfortable having these off-the-cuff conversations and being able to read without pre-reading, although some of the words are like, what is that word? What is that word? I learned to breathe, take my time, get my point across. So much so that when I got to high school, we decided to do debates. Now, I have to preface it because junior year, again, this girl would normally have done a summer in the library. But one particular year, the year before my senior year, I decided to do Junior Statesman of America. Gwendolyn thought she was going to go into politics. Now, I'm going to say this, and I know it's awful, but had we done it, and there is still time for me, they would have put me out to pasture. They're not going to let me do what I think I was born here, put on this earth to do. Yeah. So I was like, no, that's okay. We'll just do some local stuff maybe. But I thought that I wanted to go into politics. So I took an AP speech communication class. And this summer also made us debate other students in the state of Texas and a few other states. So we were debating issues like for women who were on financial assistance, forcing them to have an IUD put in them. I forget which one it was, but these were real issues in the news at that time in Texas. So we weren't debating off the cuff topics. We were debating real topics. And for us to be prepared, we had to make sure we were watching the news and doing our research and then coming to the debate with our argument ready. Talk about preparing you to speak. Oh, yes. So the speech communication class, the professor was from UC Berkeley. Man was gifted. I mean, he was good. He was really good. And we did everything from documented speeches with outlines to practicing impromptu speaking, which is my favorite. He would give us a phrase. There was a clock at the back of the classroom. And he was like, great, you have 3 minutes to make a speech about it from this phrase. You have 30 seconds to prepare. We're like, wait, what? Mine was variety is the spice of life. Never forget it because it's burned in my brain. You remember those moments that kind of stick with you? That is my moment. But when I left that summer, what he said was, take on more opportunities to speak. The more opportunities you take on, the better speaker you will be. So I came back and I joined our high school debate team, which was a couple of people. We didn't really do too much. I'm not going to lie about it. But I did get some other opportunities to speak. And I thought, okay, we can do this. We can do this. So every moment I looked, I was finding more ways to put myself in front of people, and speak. I took a sales trainer job. Took a sales training job. Yeah. Okay. Sure. I took a job where I was a manager of a call center and was on the phone with people. There's nothing more off the cuff than a phone call, right? But I looked for as many ways to strengthen my communication and strengthen my voice so that when people saw me, they knew, oh, that's G. Like, that's clearly a G thing. That's a G thing. Now, I'm going to say this really quick as we go into how this impacts you. A lot of us are struggling to find our voice, as in what we stand for, and being seen and heard when we open our mouth. It's not about being loud. I'm not loud. No. But when I speak, the room hears me. I command and demand attention. There's a way to do that. When people ask me about how do you build confidence, sometimes I find myself without a really good answer because I know it takes a lot of different building blocks to build confidence. It's not just how you dress or how you walk into a room. There's a lot of things that have to go on the inside before it comes out to those who are around you. There's not a special pill or a shortcut that makes it so. It takes time. As we've been saying, you have to do the work. The work has to be done. And I want to say, I know it is Deion Sanders, and I love the example of it, but he talks about looking good and feeling good and doing good, there is some mental work in there. There's a little bit of psychology. It's not the only thing. Because, truth be told, the speaking part, well, that does take practice. It does. So we got to ask ourselves, how do you find your voice? All right. Here is something that I share with my team back in the day, but I share it with my coaching clients. And people like to take out one of the P's, but I'm going to go ahead and leave them all in there. 4 P's. Practice prevents piss poor performance, right? You throwing that extra P in there, but I think you should say it the way it was written. It was about practice. Now, just in case you didn't know, most of your greats have some sort of impediment, some sort of, I hate the word disability. I don't believe that's the right word. Bruce Willis, stutter. James Earl Jones, stutter. John Stossel, stutter. President Biden, stutter. Yeah, it's actually very common. So when I meet adults, and typically it's men, something about guys not losing it, women tend to lose it a lot faster than the men. And I don't know if it's a matter of practice or if it's just severity, but I find more adult men who still have a stutter than I do adult women. I will say that. And when I meet adults who stutter, I don't treat them differently. As a matter of fact, I know what they're going through. And so, because it's in me to create that safe space, I give them the space and time to get their words out. I'm not cutting you off. I'm not going to act like I know what you want to say. I'm going to patiently wait for you to get your words out. It's the respectful thing to do, plain and simple. But you're trying to find your voice. You want to grow your confidence. So I'm going to put on my teacher's hat for a second. I'm going to put it on. A number of us have never seen ourselves speak. I'm certain you've seen people like, I don't like doing selfies and I don't like doing videos and I don't want to be seen. Okay, you don't have to get out of that. You don't have to. I'm not a fan of selfies because the angle is not always right. But that's a photographer thing. In order for you to be seen and heard, you've got to make sure you've heard yourself. There are a lot of folks who don't like the sound of their voice. I have heard myself speak a number of times. I've heard my voicemails a number of times. I've had people who call and say, is this Gwendolyn? Yes, it is. According to the masses, there's not enough bass in my voice for me to identify as African American. So I got to work on that. But look, it is what it is. As if all Black people have a lot of bass in their voice so that you know who you're talking to. Putting aside the stereotypes, we don't notice what we look like when we're speaking. And some of us haven't even heard ourselves. Now, I will tell you, again, this is my teacher brain right now. This is my teacher brain. Knowing what irritates me, mousy people. I admit, it's like kryptonite. People who hem and haw and talk in circles, and they just don't say what they need to say to keep the conversation moving. I don't freak out, but I do know that my patience gets tested. It gets tested. It was never my place to tell somebody how to speak, but for my training team, because they are presenting on a consistent basis, we definitely focus on how they spoke. For the management team, when we would get new managers or new employees who were part of the leadership team, we took them through a presentation training because you're leading. You should lead by example. This is not let me change the words you use because I'm going to say some stuff. It's just what it is. But to speak with confidence and clarity was the importance. So you're asking yourself, when you go places, do you feel as if people hear you? This is feelings first. And I know facts are not feelings. I get that. And feelings are not facts. But do you feel people hear you? So along with that, do you know that you've been heard? Again, I go back to, I get questions about confidence. It's like when you speak with such confidence. I believe in everything I'm saying. Now, I'm not making up stuff. So let's just make sure we're clear. Like, we're not telling lies. I'm not doing that. But when I speak, yes, I am clear on what I'm saying. What comes out of my mouth, I believe in it wholeheartedly. When you're watching the show and I'm talking to you, trust. I believe everything. These are facts here. These are facts. These are not made up things. These are facts. So for you to grow your voice and to speak clearly, confidently, I do have some tips for you. I'm going to give you the exercises I give to my coaching clients. It's what I gave to my training team. Anyone and everyone can do these exercises and start the path of becoming a better speaker. Not to just be speaking, but for you to find your voice and strengthen your voice. You don't need to do a little work, just a little work. Okay, so I said this before. Do you know what people see when they speak to you? Now, you're watching my face, right? Because I'm on camera, clearly. But you're watching it and you're thinking, her eyebrows do this, and her face does this, and her body language. Communication is more than just word choice, although it is definitely on the list. It is more than just word choice. It's how you say what you're saying. It's the nonverbal. It's body language. Now, I talk with my hands, so you guys gotta know I am like down here underneath this table, moving my hands and things because, it would be very distracting on the screen. I talk with my hands. So they're still moving down here. But if anybody wanted to shut me up, they probably had to put me in handcuffs or bind me, be like, I can't talk, I can't get my words out. But body language is part of speaking, is what people see. Now, it can be distracting if you don't know how to tailor it to your message. It can be distracting. Along with that, in terms of body language, is your facial expression. Now, people talk about Virgos real quick. Hold on, real quick. How Virgos are unable to hide how they really feel about people. Those are lies. Lies. When you practice keeping a gracious face, there are ways to do it. Okay? Because I do it all the time. But your facial expressions, they can work for you. And let me just say this, since we're talking about it. When there is someone who doesn't have any facial expressions, they are the worst person to give you advice about your facial expressions. Someone told me once about my eyebrows. Your eyebrows move too much and you should make them. My eyebrows became my thing. When I was creating videos for the company, training videos, I was being myself, and I remember getting many messages about, oh, that's G. That's G right there. That's G. I've seen that eyebrow. That's G. You want to have something that becomes you, that is your own. You don't have to have it. But if you do, you use it to your advantage. Think about Dwayne Johnson when he was The Rock. I mean, he is still The Rock. But his eyebrow, that was his thing. And it worked for him. It was genuine. It worked for him. If you have some, I'll say wonky facial expression, use it. Don't let somebody tell you you need to be like a statue. Please. No. Do you. Always do you. So yes, I use all of my expressions, all of it. I use my tone of voice. There's intonation as well. And one of my favorite, because I have a lot of favorites, a lot of good quotes, but there is one by Mark Twain. I'm going to cut it short. I'm going to cut it short. It's by Mark Twain. It says, no word was ever as effective as a well-timed pause. Oh, man. Gives me chills. Stop speaking. Pause. Have the crowd hanging on your every word. And then you drop it on them. That's what you do. You drop it on them. Now, how do you do all this? Hold up. Let me tell you. Your phone. The one thing I would have my team do, and this is the best, is to record themselves. I'm hearing you. I can hear you. I don't want to record. You have to record yourself. And I hate telling people what they have to do. This is one, because you need to see how the world sees you. And you got to see it. If you've never seen yourself speak, then how do you know what the world is seeing? Right? How do you know that when you stand a certain way, you do things that can be distracting to the person you're talking to, that your hands go places, or that you hold yourself a certain way, or that you hit, you have to see what the world sees. And when you see it, because the camera is not biased, we would keep a camera in the training room so that whenever we did an audit, I didn't have to be there. I don't have to be there. The camera's there. And so it wouldn't be me looking at the video with my trainer. They would look at the video first, and they would point out what they liked, because we always start with what we like. We are so quick to tear ourselves down. We're so quick to be like, oh my God, that's awful. And that's awful. Stop. We must celebrate what's working well, so we can focus on that habit and make it even better. And then we look at what one or two things we would do differently. It's never, oh my God, it's never gonna. No. But record yourself. Play it back. Become accustomed to hearing your voice, seeing how you stand, seeing how you walk in, seeing how you pronounce words. Practice prevents poor performance. We got to practice. And the more you do it, the more comfortable you become. Now, the second part is to have some conversations. Don't go out trying to create chaos, right? Like, you don't have to do a debate, but have a conversation with someone. And you don't have to agree. So pick a light topic, like maybe sports or something, or somebody's dish. Don't get into some things and people get all upset and it's just the. But record yourself, have cordial conversations, and then write down what worked well and what you would do differently. And I will tell you this because it takes time. The more you do it, the more comfortable you will become. And when you walk into rooms and they ask someone to speak, you're not going to have a problem doing that because you've been practicing, you've been doing the work. So what do we say about learning? Do we say, oh, I know, give yourself the space and grace to grow and learn.